All women are different, but they are all women. This video is androcentric from a men's point of view and is presented as opinion, commentary, and debate. Expressing opinions is not violence. These are ideas to challenge, question, and argue in public, because classical liberalism relies on the First Amendment for its dialectic. If you are a feminist, then consider this. If patriarchy truly existed as claimed, feminism could not. And if all men are trash and women are equal to men, then what are we to conclude? Women will die for their children. Men will die for their wives and children. And God chose to die for all mankind. Authority rolls up with responsibility. If this framing of facts offends you, click off to a cute cat video. Proceeding further will expose you to gamma bias and criticism directed at ideas, claims, institutions, not at any individual's virtue or dignity. Our method follows the 7 liberal arts, the trivium, grammar, logic, rhetoric, and the quadrivium, arithmetic, geometry, music, and astronomy, and the transcendentals, the good, true, and beautiful. If this framework is not for you, feel free to exit now. It's no disgrace. Women are wonderful. God bless America. Men are great. Feminismus delendus est. Saving the Erectus, the last hope for the masculine soul, written by Conrad Riker, available now, links in description. Anti-feminism. How to read the pattern before it reads you. I was a father by blood, by bond, by daily presence, until a safeguarding officer I had never met reclassified me as a risk surface. The statutory override called best interests of the child let my ex-wife allege emotional harm from my discipline, my tone, my very authority, and the state absorb that claim like a verdict. No mark, no witness, no injury, just a feeling weaponized into a court order restricting me to supervised visits with the children I had raised since birth. This entered through the family court system, once a venue for justice, now an administrative pipeline calibrated to one frequency, the mother's narrative. The vector was precise biological fatherhood. The oldest legal presumption in the Western tradition was quietly replaced with subjective metrics like power imbalance and emotional safety, terms that sound humane but mean whatever the filer needs them to mean. The state didn't argue with nature, it just stopped recognizing it. You feel this as vertigo because your body knows what the law has decided to forget. Two signals collide. What you are against, what the institution says you are, and the difference between them produces a nausea no physician can diagnose. Every man who has been surgically removed from his own household knows this sound, the high whine of a world that has detuned itself from reality. The revolution did not kick down your door. It rewrote the definitions first father, harm, safety, best interests, so quietly that by the time you stand before a judge, the dictionary itself has been turned against you. That is what moral vertigo is, not madness, but sanity screaming inside a system that has agreed to call it sickness. Policy under examination. The best interests of the child's statutory override, wherein a state-appointed safeguarding officer may unilaterally sever paternal rights or restrict visitation based on subjective emotional harm or power imbalance metrics, bypassing biological fatherhood as the primary legal presumption. NGO Safeguarding Framework, Inspiration Year 1909. Natural law origin point. The biological fact of paternity and the natural duty of the father to protect his offspring from external threats, grounded in the Genesis mandate to keep the garden and the Aristotelian view of the family as the primary, pre-political community. Overall vector size, 8 of 8 tens minus. The state has cannibalized the father, replacing blood-bound duty with bureaucratic discretion, turning the home into a probation zone for men. Vector map. The best interests of the child's statutory override, year of ideological seed, 1909. Administering body, the NGO, safeguarding framework, a regime of therapeutic governance and postmodern feminist safeguarding. Operative mechanism, a state-appointed safeguarding officer may unilaterally sever paternal rights or restrict visitation based on subjective emotional harm or power imbalance metrics, bypassing biological fatherhood as the primary legal presumption. Natural law origin, the biological fact of paternity and the natural duty of the father to protect his offspring from external threats. grounded in the Genesis mandate to keep the garden and the Aristotelian understanding of the family as the primary, pre-political community, sovereign beneath its own roof. Overall subversion magnitude, 8 of 10. Civilizational verdict. The state has cannibalized the father, replacing blood-bound duty with bureaucratic discretion, turning the home into a probation zone for men. 5 vectors of inversion. The infantilization of the father, natural law anchor, paternity as authority, movement type, ersatz replacement, dialectic mechanism, thesis, antithesis, synthesis, fallacy, category error, confusing biological fatherhood with social performance, vice, pride, the state presumes to know better than the blood. Magnitude, 9. Institutional effect, fathers are treated as secondary parents or visitors in their own children's lives, requiring permission slips from the mother or the state to exercise basic custodial rights. Path home, restore the presumption of joint custody as the default natural state, requiring the state to prove unfitness rather than the father to prove fitness. Subjective harm as objective crime. Natural law anchor, objective truth and due process. Movement type, problem, reaction, solution. Dialectic mechanism, problem, reaction, solution. Fallacy, equivocation, defining harm as any deviation from the child's subjective preference. Vice, envy, resentment of male autonomy reframed as child protection. Magnitude, 8. Institutional effect. A father's discipline is reclassified as abuse if the child feels unsafe, allowing the state to intervene without evidence of physical injury, creating a low barrier path to paternal removal. Path home, return to objective standards of harm, physical injury, neglect of material needs, and restore the right to discipline as a parental privilege rooted in love and duty. 3. The bureaucratization of intimacy. Natural law anchor, family privacy. Movement type, inversion of hierarchy. Dialectic mechanism, ersatz replacement. Fallacy, appeal to emotion, prioritizing feelings over facts. Vice, sloth, outsourcing moral judgment to credentialed experts. Magnitude, 7. Institutional effect, the family unit is no longer a sovereign entity, but a data point in a safeguarding algorithm, where the mother's narrative is weighted heavier than the father's due to emotional intelligence biases that mistake verbal fluency for truth. Path home, recognize the family as a pre-political institution immune from arbitrary bureaucratic intrusion, restoring the father's role as the head of the household, not a petitioner before his own hearth. IV, the pathologizing of masculinity. Natural law anchor, male nature and risk-taking. Movement type, inversion of value. Dialectic mechanism, thesis, antithesis, synthesis. Fallacy, genetic fallacy, judging the act by the gender of the actor. Vice, resentment, hatred of male strength disguised as public safety. Magnitude, 8. Institutional effect, male energy, roughhousing, and protective instinct are framed as potential violence, requiring constant monitoring and regulation by safeguarding officers who treat a father's fire as arson rather than warmth. Path home, celebrate male strength as a gift to be channeled, not a threat to be contained, restoring the father as the model of courageous virtue, the man who teaches his son to climb the tree and survive the fall. V, the asymmetry of accountability. Natural law anchor, justice and reciprocity. Movement type, inversion of justice. Dialectic mechanism, problem, reaction, solution. Fallacy, double standard, mothers are victims of the system. Fathers are threats to it. Vice, cowardice, avoiding the burden of equal moral reckoning. Magnitude, 9. Institutional effect, fathers bear the burden of proof for their rights, while mothers are granted presumptive custody, creating a structural bias that favors the maternal line regardless of competence, character, or conduct. Path home, establish equal standing for both parents, where rights derive from biological connection and active participation, not gender, not grievance, not the louder story. 10 cultural revolution steps executed. Redefine father from biological protector to potential risk factor in legal statutes. Shift custody presumption from joint to maternal primary based on emotional bonding metrics. Empower state agencies to override parental decisions in the name of child safety without due process. Create a class of safeguarding experts, overwhelmingly female, with authority to judge parental fitness. Penalize fathers for alienation if they challenge the mother's narrative in court. Normalize the removal of children from homes for emotional harm rather than physical danger. Replace family courts with administrative tribunals, prioritizing speed and best interests over justice. Fund fatherhood initiatives that focus on men's emotional deficits rather than their rights. Use media to portray fathers as bumbling or dangerous, justifying state intervention. Establish the child's voice as supreme authority, overriding parental wisdom, turning a minor's anxiety into a writ of expulsion against his own father. 10 restoration pillars. Restore the presumption of joint custody as the natural default for all biological parents. Require objective evidence of harm for state intervention, removing subjective feelings as legal grounds. Limit safeguarding officers to advisory roles, restoring final judgment to courts bound by due process. Recognize the father's right to discipline as a fundamental parental privilege grounded in love. Create male-only spaces for mentorship and bonding, free from female-centric oversight. Reform child support to be reciprocal, with fathers receiving equal visitation rights as a precondition, not a reward. Educate men on their biological and spiritual role as protectors, not just providers. Build parallel institutions, brotherhoods, schools, guilds that operate on natural law principles. Encourage fathers to be present and active in their children's lives, resisting bureaucratic marginalization with calm, documented, lawful persistence. Pray for the restoration of the family as the primary unit of civilization, grounded in the logos, the ordering word that preceded every bureaucracy and will outlast every revolution. Despair is unpaid labor for the enemy. The remnant is enough if faithful. Build what the lie cannot build. Civilization returns first as habit, and the first habit is a father standing his ground. Natural law essay. The best interests of the child, how the state cannibalized the father. The rule that entered the institution. A man fathers a child, he is present at the birth. He signs the certificate, he feeds, carries, worries, builds, sacrifices. Then the relationship fractures, and a safeguarding officer, a person he has never met, armed with a clipboard and a diploma in emotional intelligence, decides whether this man may continue to see his own son. The mechanism is called the best interests of the child's statutory override. It sounds maternal, it sounds protective, it sounds like mercy. It is none of these things. It is the legal infrastructure by which the state replaces the father with itself, substituting bureaucratic discretion for blood-bound duty and converting the family home into a surveillance zone where a man must petition for access to the children he conceived, raised, and loves. Here is how it operates in practice. A state-appointed safeguarding officer, typically a woman, typically trained in postmodern feminist safeguarding frameworks, may unilaterally sever paternal rights or restrict visitation based not on evidence of violence, neglect, or criminal conduct, but on subjective metrics, emotional harm, power imbalance, the child feeling unsafe. These phrases are not legal standards, they are mood readings. They are therapeutic vocabulary weaponized as jurisprudence, and they bypass the one presumption that every sane civilization has held since the dawn of agriculture: biological fatherhood is the primary legal claim. The rule entered quietly. It did not arrive as a revolution. It arrived as a procedure, a form, a checkbox, a safeguarding concern logged in a database by a mid-level functionary whose salary depends on finding concerns to log. It entered through the back door of family law, through the slow accumulation of statute, guideline, case law, and bureaucratic creep, until the default position flipped. Once the state had to prove a father unfit to remove his children. Now a father must prove himself fit to keep them. The burden of proof migrated from the accuser to the accused, and the accused is always a man. This is not a policy failure. This is a policy success for the people who designed it. The natural law origin point. Before the state, before the statute, before the safeguarding officer and her rubrics, there was a father. The natural law origin point is simple enough that a child can understand it, which is why ideologues must spend 12 years of university education unlearning it. The man who fathers a child has a natural duty to protect that child, and that duty confers a natural authority to do so. This is not a grant from the state. It is not a social construction. It is written into the structure of reality itself. The Genesis mandate is explicit. Keep the garden. The Hebrew verb shamar means to guard, to watch over, to preserve. It is a martial word. The father is the keeper, not because he earns a certificate, not because a panel approves his emotional intelligence, but because the child carries his blood, his name, and his line. Paternity is not a social performance. It is a biological fact with moral weight. Aristotle understood this. In the Politics, he identifies the family as the primary pre-political community, the building block that exists before the state and above the state. The state does not create the family. The family creates the state. The oikos precedes the polis. The household is sovereign territory. The father is its head not by tyranny, but by natural order. The same order that places roots below branches, foundations above roofs, origins before extensions. Roman law codified this with patria potestas, the authority of the father, bounded by custom, religion, and civic obligation, but recognized as inherent, not delegated. The father did not receive his authority from the magistrates. The magistrates received their authority from the families that composed the republic. The common law inherited this principle. The tender years doctrine, which held that young children belong with their mother, was originally a narrow exception to the general rule that both parents have equal natural claim to their children. That rule persisted for centuries because it reflected reality. Children need fathers, not wallets, not visitors, not co-parents who appear every other Saturday under supervised conditions. Fathers, men who discipline, protect, provide, model virtue, transmit culture, and stand between their households and the chaos that waits outside the door. Natural law does not ask whether the father is perfect. It asks whether he is the father. If he is, then his claim is anterior to the state's claim. The state may intervene when there is objective harm, broken bones, starvation, criminal violence. The state may not intervene because a safeguarding officer perceives a power imbalance in the way he speaks to his ex-wife. That is the origin point. That is the ground beneath the floor. Everything that follows is a departure from it, measured, deliberate, and devastating. The inversion vectors. A satanic inversion does not announce itself. It does not arrive wearing horns. It arrives wearing a name tag that says Advocate for Children. It arrives with concern, with sympathy, with the language of care. It arrives promising to help, and then it turns the world upside down, slowly, procedurally, checkbox by checkbox, until the father stands outside his own house, holding a court order that calls his love a risk factor. 5 vectors drove this inversion. Each one is a separate mechanism. Together, they form a coordinated demolition. Vector I, the infantilization of the father. The natural law says paternity is authority. The inversion says paternity is irrelevant. What matters is social performance. This is a category error of the most fundamental kind, biological fatherhood. The fact that this child carries this man's genetic code, resembles his grandfather, inherited his temperament, is treated as legally meaningless unless the father can demonstrate ongoing emotional attunement, co-parenting capacity, or therapeutic awareness. These are not legal standards. They are therapy speak. They are the vocabulary of a safeguarding culture that has redefined fatherhood as a skill to be assessed rather than a fact to be recognized. The result? Fathers become secondary parents. They become visitors, a word that should make any civilized person's blood boil. A visitor is someone who comes from outside. A father does not come from outside his own family. He is the family. But the inversion reframes him as a guest in his own child's life. requesting access, submitting to evaluation, awaiting the officer's nod. The dialectic is textbook thesis, antithesis, synthesis. Thesis: the father is the natural protector. Antithesis: some fathers harm children. Synthesis: all fathers are potential harmers and must be assessed before trusted. Notice the trick. The exception, the abusive father, does not modify the rule, the protective father. It replaces the rule. Every father becomes a suspect. Every household becomes a crime scene waiting for evidence. And the state, wise, compassionate, concerned, steps in to manage the risk. The vice here is pride. The state presumes to know better than the blood. The safeguarding officer, with her training module and her risk assessment matrix, presumes to stand above the father, looking down, grading his fitness like a schoolmarm grading penmanship. This is the oldest sin, the creature exalting itself above the creator. The bureaucracy exalts itself above the family that built the civilization the bureaucracy now feeds on. Vector 2. Subjective harm as objective crime. The natural law requires objective standards. An injury, a wound, a deprivation, something a reasonable person can see, measure, document. Harm is real, harm matters. The state has legitimate authority to intervene when a child is being physically destroyed. But the inversion redefines harm as any subjective discomfort the child reports or the mother attributes. The child feels unsafe. The child experiences distress. The father's voice is intimidating. His discipline is scary. His presence creates a power imbalance. This is equivocation, the oldest rhetorical trick in the book. The word harm once meant damage. Now it means discomfort. The word unsafe once meant in physical danger. Now it means emotionally unsettled. The definitions have been gutted and restuffed with therapeutic mush, and the new definitions are then deployed as legal standards that can strip a man of his children. The mechanism is problem-reaction-solution. Problem: some children are genuinely abused, rare but real. Reaction: public horror, amplified by media. Solution: lower the threshold for intervention so far that any report of subjective discomfort triggers state action. The net catches everything. The father who yells at his son for failing to do homework is now in the same category as the father who breaks his son's arm. The safeguarding officer cannot tell the difference, or more precisely, does not want to tell the difference, because ambiguity is where her power lives. The vice here is envy. The ideology resents male authority. It resents the father who commands respect, who sets boundaries, who says no and means it. That authority looks like domination to a mind trained to see all male power as threat. So the ideology reclassifies paternal authority as emotional abuse. Not because it is abuse, but because the ideology needs it to be abuse in order to justify the intervention. Vector 3, the bureaucratization of intimacy. The natural law recognizes the family as sovereign territory. What happens between father, mother, and child beneath their own roof is not the state's business unless someone is being destroyed. The inversion turns the family into a data point in a safeguarding algorithm. The mother's narrative is weighted more heavily than the father's, not because it is more true, but because she is more verbally fluent, more emotionally expressive, more skilled at the therapeutic vocabulary the system rewards. She says, "I feel threatened." He says, "That never happened." The algorithm scores her statement as credible and his as defensive. Verbal fluency is mistaken for honesty. Emotional expression is mistaken for truth. This is an appeal to emotion, substituting feeling for fact as the basis of legal judgment. The safeguarding officer does not investigate. She listens, and the person who cries best wins. The dialectic is ersatz replacement. The father's natural authority as head of household is replaced by the safeguarding officer's bureaucratic authority as evaluator of the household. She does not protect the family. She manages it. She becomes a permanent third parent, a state-appointed mother surrogate whose permission the father must seek to parent his own child. The vice is sloth, the outsourcing of moral judgment to credentialed experts who have no skin in the game. The judge does not examine evidence, he reads the officer's report. The legislator does not think through consequences. He drafts the statute. The advocacy group wrote, "Everyone defers, everyone shrugs." The machine runs on automatic, and no one is responsible, which is exactly how the machine was designed. Vector IV, the pathologizing of masculinity. The natural law honors male nature, the drive to protect, to test limits, to take risks, to build strength, to stand between danger and the vulnerable. The father who teaches his son to climb the tree, to take the hit, to get back up, to face fear, that father is performing his natural function. He is making his son into a man. The inversion calls this pathology. Male energy is reframed as potential violence. Roughhousing is concerning. Competitive sports are hypermasculine. A father's stern voice is intimidating behavior. His physical presence, tall, strong, loud, is a power imbalance before he opens his mouth. The very things that make a father valuable to his children are the things the safeguarding framework treats as dangerous. This is a genetic fallacy, judging the act by the gender of the actor. When a mother raises her voice, she is setting boundaries. When a father raises his voice, he is escalating. When a mother disciplines, she is parenting. When a father disciplines, he is controlling. The identical behavior receives opposite classifications based solely on the sex of the parent. The vice is ressentiment, the deep, festering hatred of male strength disguised as public safety. The ideology does not want to reform masculine energy. It wants to eliminate it. It wants fathers who are soft, compliant, therapeutic, men who speak in the passive voice and ask permission before expressing an opinion. And any father who does not conform to this emasculated ideal is flagged as a risk to his own children. Vector V, the asymmetry of accountability. The natural law demands justice, equal standing, equal burden, equal scrutiny. The inversion delivers the opposite. Fathers bear the burden of proof for their rights. Mothers receive presumptive custody. Fathers who accuse mothers of alienation are punished for parental alienation syndrome, a condition the psychological establishment has conveniently reclassified as not real, because acknowledging it would require acknowledging that mothers do weaponize children. Mothers who accuse fathers of abuse are believed by default. Fathers who defend themselves are denying and gaslighting. The sex swap test destroys the entire framework. If a father alleged that a mother made the child feel unsafe with no evidence, no witnesses, no medical records, the court would dismiss it and possibly sanction him for filing it. When a mother makes the identical allegation, the court issues a temporary restraining order, removes the father from the home, and schedules a hearing in 90 days. Same facts, opposite outcomes. The vice is cowardice. The system refuses to hold women to the same standard as men because it fears the political consequences. Feminist advocacy groups would erupt. Media would run stories about re-victimizing survivors. Politicians would lose elections. So the system maintains the double standard, quietly, procedurally, with clean stationery and professional language, and fathers pay the price. The fallacies and vices that powered the fall. Every inversion runs on a fallacy and is fueled by a vice. Name them. They must be named because they operate through euphemism, and euphemism is the grammar of cowardice. Category error, confusing biological fatherhood with social performance. A father is not a job title. He is not a competency. He is a fact. Redefining him as a role to be assessed is like redefining gravity as a suggestion to be evaluated. The vice, pride, the state exalts its judgment above nature's design. Equivocation shifting the definition of harm from physical injury to emotional discomfort mid-argument, so that the word carries the moral weight of the first definition while operating under the scope of the second. The vice, envy. The ideologue cannot compete with the father's natural authority, so she reclassifies that authority as injury. Appeal to emotion, treating the mother's tears as evidence and the father's composure as coldness. The vice, sloth. Real investigation is hard. Listening to whoever cries loudest is easy. The system chooses ease. Genetic fallacy, judging the father's behavior by his sex rather than his conduct. The vice, ressentiment. The ideology hates what it cannot be, so it pathologizes what it cannot match. Double standard, applying opposite rules to identical conduct based on the parent's sex. The vice, cowardice. The system knows that holding women accountable would cost more political capital than it is willing to spend. So men absorb the difference. These 5 vices, pride, envy, sloth, resentment, and cowardice are not personality traits. They are structural features of the inversion. They are built into the statutes, the guidelines, the training manuals, the safeguarding frameworks. The officers do not need to be malicious. The machinery is malicious for them. They simply operate it, and the machinery does what it was designed to do: separate fathers from children and replace the father with the state. The Cultural Revolution ratchet. How does a civilization arrive at the point where a father needs a permission slip to see his son? Not in one leap, in 10 steps. Each one small, each one reasonable, each one presented as compassion, and each one tightening the ratchet one more click until the trap closes. Step 1. Redefine father from biological protector to potential risk factor in legal statutes. The word father once carried authority by definition. Strip the authority, keep the liability. The father becomes a legal category, one among many adult males with access to minors, rather than a sovereign figure in a sovereign household. Step 2. Shift the custody presumption from joint to maternal primary, justified by emotional bonding metrics that privilege the parent who spent more hours physically present, which is always the mother, because men were working. The ratchet catches. The father's absence, caused by his duty to provide, is used as evidence that he is less bonded, which is used to justify giving him less custody, which guarantees he will be less present, which is used next time to reduce his custody further. Step 3. Empower state agencies to override parental decisions in the name of child safety without due process. No hearing, no evidence, no cross-examination. A phone call, a form, a concern, that is enough. The burden shifts. The father must now disprove a negative, prove he is not a risk, which is logically impossible and procedurally devastating. Step 4. Create a class of safeguarding experts, overwhelmingly female, trained in ideological frameworks that pathologize masculinity and grant them authority to judge parental fitness. These experts are not elected. They are not accountable. They are not subject to cross-examination in any meaningful sense. They write reports. The reports become evidence. The evidence becomes orders. The orders become reality. Step 5. Penalize fathers for alienation if they challenge the mother's narrative in court. The father says she is lying. The safeguarding officer writes, father exhibits hostile and confrontational behavior toward the mother, which is detrimental to the child's emotional well-being. His defense becomes his conviction. His protest becomes his proof of guilt. The ratchet will not release. Step 6. Normalize the removal of children from homes for emotional harm rather than physical danger. Once harm includes subjective feelings, anything qualifies. A father who enforces bedtime is causing distress. A father who disagrees with the mother in front of the child is creating conflict. A father who expresses anger at the system is demonstrating poor emotional regulation, itself a risk factor. Step 7. Replace family courts with administrative tribunals that prioritize speed and best interests over justice. Speed means no time to gather evidence. Best interests means whatever the tribunal decides it means. Justice, with its burdens of proof, its cross-examination, its right to appeal, is reclassified as a barrier to child protection. Due process becomes the enemy of safety. The Constitution becomes a nuisance. Step 8. Fund fatherhood initiatives that focus on men's emotional deficits rather than their rights. The state does not say you have a right to your children. The state says you have a deficit. Attend this program.
Complete this module. Demonstrate emotional literacy. Then we will consider access. The father is reprogrammed, not restored. He is treated as a patient, not a parent.
Step 9. Use media to portray fathers as bumbling, dangerous, or irrelevant. The sitcom dad is a fool. The drama dad is a predator. The news dad is a statistic. The commercial dad is a punchline. Culture primes the legal system, and the legal system ratifies the culture. The ratchet turns. Step 10. Establish the child's voice as the supreme authority overriding parental wisdom. A 13-year-old who says, "I don't want to see dad," coached, alienated, or simply anxious, is treated as an oracle. The parent who built, fed, and protected the child for 13 years is overruled by the child's preference, as if a minor's anxiety carries more legal weight than a father's blood. The ratchet clicks shut. The The father is gone. The human and civilizational cost. A father sits in a rented room. He is 43 years old. He has not seen his daughter in 11 weeks. The court order says he may call her on Wednesdays between 6 RN and 6:30 p.m. The mother does not answer. He documents the call. He files a motion. The motion sits in a stack. The safeguarding officer has reassigned the case. The next hearing is in 4 months. His daughter is 8. She is learning that fathers are optional. She is learning that men are dangerous. She is learning that the state, not her father, is her protector. She will carry this lesson into adolescence, into dating, into marriage, into motherhood. She will teach it to her children. The ratchet does not stop with one family. It reproduces itself across generations. Now multiply this man by millions. The United States has approximately 18.3 million children living without a father in the home. This is not an accident. This is not a natural disaster. This is policy. Every statistic that follows from fatherlessness, the suicide rate, the dropout rate, the incarceration rate, the addiction rate, the teen pregnancy rate, the poverty rate, is not a mystery, it is a forecast. The system that separates fathers from children knows what it produces. It produces it anyway, because the product is not the point. The control is the point. Male suicide. Men die by suicide at nearly 4 times the rate of women. In the UK, suicide is the leading cause of death for men under 50. A significant contributing factor is family court destruction. The loss of children, the loss of home, the loss of purpose. These men are not weak, they are demolished. They are taken apart by a machine that uses their love as leverage and their duty as a weapon. Boys' educational collapse. Boys are falling behind at every level: reading, writing, graduation, college enrollment. They grow up without fathers. They attend schools run by women who pathologize male energy. They are medicated for being boys. They have no male teachers, no male mentors, no male role models who are not pixels on a screen. They drift, they rage, they disappear. The fertility crash. Men who have been through family court once do not sign up for a second tour. The data is unambiguous. Marriage rates are falling, birth rates are collapsing, and men are withdrawing from the entire enterprise. The system told them they were expendable. They believed it. They acted accordingly. The institutional trust deficit. Men no longer trust the courts, the schools, the universities, the HR departments, the media, the churches, or the state. They have watched every institution bend its knee to the same ideology, the ideology that names them oppressor, strips them of authority, and retains them only as labor units and tax bases. The trust is gone. It will not return easily. It may not return at all. The civilizational cost. A civilization that separates fathers from children has decided to die. Not quickly, not dramatically, slowly, the way a body dies when the marrow stops producing blood. The family is the marrow. The father is part of the marrow. Remove him, and the body continues to function for a while, on reserves, on momentum, on the cultural capital accumulated by previous generations. But the blood thins, the immune system weakens. The body becomes vulnerable to every infection that wanders in, and infections are always wandering in. The way home. The diagnosis is severe. The treatment is not complex. It is difficult, which is different. Complexity is the refuge of people who do not want to act. Difficulty is the condition of doing what is right. Restore the presumption of joint custody as the natural default, not as a favor to fathers, as a recognition of reality. 2 parents created the child. 2 parents have claims on the child. The state's role is to protect that arrangement from external threat, not to be the external threat. If the state alleges unfitness, let the state prove it, with evidence, with cross-examination, with due process. The burden belongs on the accuser, always. Require objective evidence of harm, physical injury, neglect of material needs, criminal conduct, not emotional distress, not power imbalance, not the safeguarding officer's intuition. If a child is being beaten, intervene. If a child is being disciplined, stand down. The difference is not subtle. It is the difference between a broken arm and a stern word, between violence and authority. Any system that cannot distinguish them is not protecting children. It is prosecuting fathers. Limit safeguarding officers to advisory roles. They may observe, they may report, they may recommend, they may not decide. Final judgment belongs to courts bound by due process. Real courts, with rules of evidence, with the right to confront accusers, with the presumption of innocence. Administrative tribunals that operate without these protections are not courts. They are kangaroo operations with better letterhead. Recognize the father's right to discipline as a parental privilege. Discipline is not abuse. The word discipline comes from the Latin disciplina, instruction, training, knowledge. It shares its root with disciple. A father who disciplines is a father who teaches. He sets the boundary, he enforces the standard. He says, this is acceptable, that is not, here is why. This is not violence, this is love in its most demanding form. The civilization that criminalizes paternal discipline has signed its own death warrant. Create male-only spaces for mentorship and brotherhood. Men need what men have always needed, the company of other men in spaces governed by male norms, free from the therapeutic gaze. Guilds, lodges, gyms, churches, fraternities, shooting clubs, trade workshops, reading groups. The form matters less than the principle. Men build men, and they do it best without supervision. Reform child support to be reciprocal. Support and access are not separate transactions. They are one covenant. A father who pays supports his children financially. A father who parents supports them in every other way. Neither obligation exists without the other. A system that extracts money while denying access is not a child support system. It is an extortion racket with moral pretensions. Build parallel institutions. The captured institutions will not reform themselves. They were captured because they were worth capturing, and the people who captured them intend to keep them. So build alternatives. Schools that teach the canon. Churches that honor fathers, courts private binding arbitration that operate on natural law principles, guilds that train apprentices, media that tell true stories. The infrastructure of a civilization does not require majority support. It requires a remnant, a small number of men who refuse to conform and are willing to build what the lie cannot build. Teach boys what fathers are. They do not know. The culture has hidden it from them. Show them. Be present. Be strong. Be just. Be merciful when mercy serves. Be terrible when terribleness is required. Show them a man who does not apologize for existing, who does not flinch when the safeguarding officer enters the room, who does not ask permission to love his own children. Pray. The logos, the ordering word that spoke matter into being, that established the difference between light and darkness, male and female, parent and child. Justice and fraud, that logos precedes every bureaucracy and will outlast every revolution. The state is temporary. The family is ancient. The father is older than the flag, older than the statute, older than the bench upon which the judge sits when he signs the order that separates a man from his son. Pray for the restoration of what was stolen, and then work for it. A divorced man is cleaning his rented room. He folds the laundry, he makes the bed, he reads Proverbs to himself in the dark. The glory of children is their fathers. He does not feel hopeful, he does not feel heroic. He feels tired and diminished and angry, in the way that men who have been robbed are angry, quietly, precisely, permanently. But he cleans the room, he trains his body, he documents the calls his ex-wife does not answer, he files the motions, he attends the hearing, he speaks the truth calmly and completely. He does not grovel, he does not rage. He does not perform the contrition the system demands. He stands. He is the remnant, and the remnant is enough. Hope is obedience under fog. Despair is unpaid labor for the enemy. Build what the lie cannot build. Civilization returns first as habit, and the first habit is a father standing his ground. Restoration path. The ways home. Practical restoration. 1. Restore the lexicon. Every lie begins as a stolen word. Equity means discrimination. Safety means surveillance. Co-parent means father demoted to visitor. Best interests of the child means whatever the safeguarding officer feels that morning. Define your terms relentlessly and refuse the enemy's vocabulary. A father is a father. Discipline is instruction. Authority is service. When they say toxic masculinity, ask them to define toxicity. Then ask them to define masculinity. Watch them stutter. The man who controls definitions controls the battlefield before the first argument is made. Reclaim language at the mouth. Speak plainly. Refuse euphemism. Call things what they are and watch the spell break. 2. Restore due process as non-negotiable. No civilization survives the moment accusation outranks evidence. We have built a society where a woman's discomfort is a summons, a man's anger is a diagnosis, and a child's lived experience, coached by therapists, overrides a father's testimony. This is not justice. This is ritual sacrifice with bureaucratic stationery. Demand evidence, demand cross-examination, demand sex disaggregated data, demand that the same standard applied to men be applied to women in the same breath. If her fear is evidence, his testimony is evidence. If her trauma mitigates her conduct, his stress mitigates his equal law or open tyranny. There is no third option. No man should lose his children, his income, or his name on the strength of an unverified claim. Due process is not a technicality. It is the minimum tribute a civilization pays to truth before it presumes to judge a man. 3. Restore fatherhood as natural authority. The family is not a construct. It is not a policy outcome. It is the first institution, older than the state, older than the court, older than the school. The father is its natural head, not because men are superior, but because authority must rest somewhere accountable. And a blood-bound father who loves his children is infinitely more accountable than a salaried officer who processes them. The state has cannibalized the father, replacing blood-bound duty with bureaucratic discretion, turning the home into a probation zone. This must be reversed. Restore the presumption of joint custody as the natural default. Require the accuser to prove unfitness, not the father to prove fitness. A father is not a wallet with supervised visitation. A father is not a risk surface to be managed. A father is a parent, primary, natural, and sovereign in his own household. Show up, lead, refuse to be erased. 4. Restore the family as pre-political sovereign territory. The state exists to serve the family, not to reorganize it. The moment a safeguarding officer can sever paternal rights based on subjective emotional harm, undefined, unmeasured, unfalsifiable, the family is no longer a sovereign unit. It is a data point in someone's spreadsheet. Resist this at every level. Keep your household ordered. Keep your children close. Maintain the boundary between private life and bureaucratic jurisdiction. The therapist, the social worker, the teacher, the HR representative. These are assistants, not authorities over your home. Treat them accordingly. A clean, disciplined, loving household is itself an act of resistance. Order is armor. 5. Restore education to its proper object, virtue. Modern schooling does not educate, it pathologizes. Boys are treated as defective girls, drugged for energy, punished for competition, shamed for instinct, lectured on privilege before they can spell it. This is not education. It is ideological castration dressed in pedagogical language. Pull your children out of the propaganda stream wherever possible. Teach them logic before feelings. Teach them history as it happened, not as the grievance industry retells it. Teach them the canon. Homer, Aristotle, Aquinas, Shakespeare, Scripture, the inheritance their civilization built, and that ideologues want them to forget. Boys need movement, competition, male mentors, real risk, real craft, real consequences. Start a study group, start a gym, start a workshop, become the teacher you wish you had. One father instructing his son in logic is worth 1,000 diversity coordinators. 6. Restore reason as God's grammar. The postmodern enterprise is a war on logos, on meaning, order, truth. The principle that the world is intelligible and that language can map reality. They dissolve truth so they can rewrite definitions. They rank victims so they can manufacture moral authority without earning it. They name men as the enemy class so the entire system of accountability runs one way. Counter this with relentless logic. Learn the syllogism, learn the fallacy. Learn to say that is an ad hominem. That is an unfalsifiable claim. That is a category error. That is circular reasoning. When a feminist says patriarchy, ask her to define it operationally. When a bureaucrat says systemic, ask for the system and the mechanism. When an ideologue says educate yourself, reply, I am educated. That is why I disagree. Reason is not a tool of the oppressor. It is the architecture of reality itself. Use it without apology. Use it relentlessly. Use it until they fear opening their mouths in your presence. 7. Restore local brotherhood and parallel institutions. The captured institutions, universities, HR departments, family courts, mainstream churches that apologize for existing media outlets that function as Ministry of Truth satellites will not reform themselves. They are occupied territory. Stop waiting for permission. Build what they cannot capture. Men's groups, guilds, reading circles, training crews, small businesses, parishes that preach the logos without flinching, co-ops, lodges, fraternities. A handful of disciplined men meeting weekly to sharpen each other physically, intellectually, spiritually is a more durable institution than any university department. Civilization does not descend from the top. It grows from the roots, from a father teaching his son, from a craftsman training an apprentice, from friends holding each other accountable. Build the parallel structure. Make it so good that people leave the corrupt system voluntarily. 8. Restore faith as the foundation, not the decoration. The West did not build cathedrals because it had good logistics. It built them because it believed the logos, the rational moral order of the cosmos, was real, personal, and demanding. Faith is not a sentiment. It is the recognition that reality has a moral grammar, that justice is not a social construct, that the Father's authority reflects a heavenly pattern. The ideologues are desperate to overwrite. Return to worship. Return to Scripture. Return to the disciplines, fasting, confession, prayer, tithe, service, that forge a soul capable of resisting ideological possession. A man who kneels before God cannot be made to grovel before a committee. A man who knows his Father in heaven cannot be terrorized by a bureaucrat who pretends to own his children. Faith is the spine of civilization. Strengthen yours, and you strengthen the remnant. 9. Restore disciplined self-command as daily praxis. Hope is not a feeling, it is a virtue, which means it is a habit built by repeated action under difficulty. The black pill dissolves the moment you stop asking, what is happening to the world? And start asking, what must I do today? Train your body before dawn. Clean your room, literally. Pay down your debts. Debt reduction is spiritual warfare. Speak truth when silence would be safer. Build something with your hands. Call your brother. Read something written before 1900. Pray, eat well, sleep. Refuse pornography, which is the ideological system's reward for your compliance, a chemical leash that keeps you docile, isolated, and ashamed. Every act of disciplined self-command is a brick in the civilization you are rebuilding. Your body is the first territory to liberate. Liberate it. 10. Restore the temporal scale of a civilization builder. The left thinks in news cycles. The grifter thinks in quarterly profits. The black-pilled thinker thinks in collapsed dates. The man of logos thinks in generations. You are not building for next week. You are building for your grandchildren's grandchildren, for the men and women who will inherit either ruins or foundations, depending on what you do now. Plant the tree you will never sit under. Write the book no one will read for 50 years. Teach the boy who will teach his sons. The remnant is always smaller than the ruins, but the remnant is enough if it is faithful. Do not despair at the size of the task. Despair is inverted pride, the arrogant demand that history obey your timeline. Submit to the long obedience. The cathedral took centuries. So will the restoration. Pick up the chisel. The maxim, civilization does not fall because evil is strong. It falls because good men wait for someone else to lay the first stone. Lay it tomorrow morning before dawn in the dark, with calloused hands and a clear conscience. The Logos does not lose, but it waits for men who will build with it. Cultural revolution, ratchet. Redefine father from biological protector to potential risk factor in legal statutes. Shift custody presumption from joint to maternal primary based on emotional bonding metrics. Empower state agencies to override parental decisions in the name of child safety without due process. Create a class of safeguarding experts, mostly female, with authority to judge parental fitness. Penalize fathers for alienation if they challenge the mother's narrative in court. Normalize the removal of children from homes for emotional harm rather than physical danger. Replace family courts with administrative tribunals that prioritize speed and best interests over justice. Fund fatherhood initiatives that focus on men's emotional deficits rather than their rights. Use media to portray fathers as bumbling or dangerous, justifying state intervention. Establish a child's voice as the supreme authority, overriding parental wisdom. Ways home. Restore the presumption of joint custody as the natural default for all biological parents. Require objective evidence of harm for state intervention, removing subjective feelings as grounds. Limit the power of safeguarding officers to advisory roles, restoring final judgment to family courts. Recognize the father's right to discipline as a fundamental parental privilege. Create male-only spaces for mentorship and bonding, free from female-centric oversight. Reform child support to be reciprocal, with fathers receiving equal visitation rights. Educate men on their biological and spiritual role as protectors, not just providers. Build parallel institutions, men's clubs, schools, courts, that operate on natural law principles. Encourage fathers to be present and active in their children's lives, resisting bureaucratic marginalization. Pray for the restoration of the family as the primary unit of civilization, grounded in the Logos. I have traced the line from the first father to the last bureaucrat, and the distance between them is the measure of everything we have lost. In the beginning, before the safeguarding officer, before the therapeutic state, before the algorithm that weighs a mother's feelings against a father's blood, there was a man in a garden charged with keeping it. That charge did not arrive from a committee. It was not subject to review by a social worker with a certificate and a clipboard. It was written into the structure of being itself. The father stands between the household and the chaos, and his authority is not a social construct, but a natural fact, as real as bone, as stubborn as gravity. Every civilization that endured understood this. Every civilization that forgot it began by forgetting the father and ended by devouring the children he was meant to protect. The inversion I have documented here is not an accident. It is a measured evil, patient and administrative, carried out in clean offices by people who believe they are kind. They did not storm the gates. They redefined the words. They replaced father with parent, then parent with caregiver, then caregiver with risk factor. They replaced harm with feelings, evidence with accusation, duty with compliance. They took the most ancient office in human history and reduced it to a probationary status, a wallet with a supervised visitation order. A man standing in a courthouse, begging a stranger for 2 hours with his own son on a Saturday afternoon. This is not reform. This is sacrilege performed in policy language. And it works precisely because good men assume the system must be legitimate, because it uses the vocabulary of care. It is not legitimate. A law that treats a biological father as a secondary parent is not law. It is occupation. A standard of emotional harm that can be invoked without evidence, without injury, without any objective referent beyond the subjective testimony of one party, is not a standard. It is a weapon disguised as compassion. And every man who has signed an agreement he did not believe in, who has accepted a framing of himself he knew was false, who has remained silent because the cost of speaking seemed higher than the cost of submitting, that man has fed the machine with his own dignity, and I do not blame him because I have been him, and the pressure is real, and the system is designed to make resistance feel like madness. But resistance is not madness. Resistance is sanity returning. And sanity begins not with a manifesto but with a single act of refusal that leads, through ordinary human practice, toward the reassertion of what has always been true. Today, do this one thing. Sit down with your son or your daughter, or a boy who has no father, or a younger man at work who is drowning, and speak one true sentence about what it means to be a man who takes responsibility for those in his care. Do not speak in the language of the bureaucracy. Do not say parenting, say fatherhood. Say my house, my name, my duty, my line. Say it knowing that every ideology arrayed against you depends on your silence and your shame. Say it knowing that the word itself, spoken with conviction by one man to another, is an act of civilizational repair that no policy can undo and no committee can overrule. The garden was given to a worker, not a petitioner. Return to the work. The remnant is enough. Civilization returns first as a man standing where he was always meant to stand, in his own home, known by his own name, keeping what was entrusted to him, and refusing to call his exile a settlement. Sponsored book, Saving the Erectus, the last hope for the masculine soul. Look in the mirror. What do you see? A provider, a protector, maybe just a wallet with legs. Society tells you you're privileged, but you feel like the mark in a rigged game. I know, I lived it. The slow erosion of respect. The constant shaming disguised as progress. The nagging sense that your strength, your logic, your very nature is now a crime. That's the female supremacist playbook in action. It cost me marriages, peace of mind, and years playing by rules designed to break me. Enough. This book isn't therapy. It's the antidote. It's for the man who sees the lie of equality, who feels the chains of the marriage plantation tightening, who's sick of being told his biology is toxic. If you're tired of being the expendable asset, the legal hostage, the target of media mockery, while female privilege runs rampant in courts and politics, this is your field manual. We're going deep. We'll shatter the gender equality myth with hard biology and psychology. We'll expose how empathy is weaponized to control you and how women enable cultural Marxists as useful idiots. You'll see the marriage slavery trap laid bare and learn why toxic masculinity is a deliberate double bond you can escape. We'll dissect the motherhood monopoly, the victimology markets, the cold reality of male disposability. You'll understand why men lead and women mother. It's nature's design, not hate. You'll learn rational resistance tactics to reclaim your logic in this rising genocracy. You'll see the female aggression behind the sex war and the strength shaming used to demonize your power. If you want actionable truth, not comforting lies, read on. If you're ready to break free, rebuild brotherhood, and claim your patriarchy 2.0 birthright, this is your weapon. If you're still clinging to the feminist fantasy that men are oppressors and women are perpetual victims, put this book down. Seriously, go read something else. Knit a sweater, watch daytime TV. You won't like what's coming. You're not equipped for the red pill. This fight is for men who see the war and are ready to win it. Your liberation starts now. Saving the Erectus, the last hope for the masculine soul. Written by Conrad Riker. Buy now. Links in description.